and a month later the market crashed.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's kind of that feel like when you get that feeling like, golly, man, this is even like this last run in 2022. This is not making sense. Home values are up 35% year over year. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's so the end of 21, I really backed off buying, getting that same feeling. So if you pay attention to the signs, it's easier to get ahead of it. If you get greedy, then that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to another episode of Good Business. Guys, I am thrilled to have my good friend Zach Potts on this episode today because, we're all feeling it. The economy's all over the place. We're in a weird political season in our country. Depending on when you're watching this, I'm sure it's still weird. And the reality is we're all being impacted in one way or another by all of these swings in consumer confidence and spending habits and investments. And how do we navigate all of that? How do we be a successful entrepreneur in the midst of all of this? And how do we make wise investments? And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have Zach on the show today, is because he's got a wealth of knowledge and expertise. And I want to have him share that with you guys, because especially in the Texas market, which is where we're based now, we're in the Austin studio, and Zach has joined us. He lives in the Austin area as well, and operates very successful businesses in the greater state of Texas. And so I just want to honestly hand it off to you, Zach. So I'd love it if you could just share with us a little bit about your journey, who you are, and then we'll go from there. Oh, and by the way, thank you for being here, Zach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
So take it away. Take it away.
Okay, so I primarily do rural land development, and I've done a little bit of all kinds of real estate. I have some commercial deals, residential deals. I've done construction, and I also have an oil and gas service company. I've had other oil and gas service related businesses as well that we've founded, sold, but currently operate oil and gas service company as well.
Awesome. All right. So how did you get into all of that?
Well, it kind of goes back to my childhood. I was raised on a dairy farm, and as a dairy farmer, you get skills in pretty much everything as far as electrical, construction, animals, equipment. But the main skill I got was entrepreneurship. My dad he worked for himself. He worked hard. He'd get up at 6, came home at 8, worked all day. It's a tough living. Definitely motivation to go to college, to get off the farm. But at the same time, it was good work, and you felt good about yourself. But there was a lot of problems. There's always problems. The animals got sick. The equipment broke. So nothing really went your way. But so those are some of the lessons I learned. And so I had an idea about working for myself, and that was always my vision. So I went to college, and I started out as an engineer. Quickly learned that it just wasn't for me. My first chemical engineering test was a year and a half in, and it was 3 questions in 3 hours, and it was so many different processes and flows and math formulas. And, I could do it, but it was just boring. So it wasn't really for me. And I was interested in finance. I got interested in the stock market. So I moved to finance and got my real estate license at the same time, started doing apartment locating and property houses and duplexes for a property management company, and did leasing. So got a lot of experience in the real estate business. And with that accounting and finance degree, I got an internship with Ernst & Young. Same thing, sat in front of a computer all day. It was like, no, this is not for me. And I made the same money I was making already doing real estate. So I was like, I'm just going to get into real estate coming out of college. So I got into land sales, and then quickly found some opportunities to invest. Bought my first deal. It was a $12,000 foreclosure lot, and then they had a mobile home on it that was foreclosed on as well. So I negotiated to buy that for not much more, and put it all together, did a rehab, and flipped it. So that was my first real estate deal.
Wow.
And then soon after that, I found my first land deal, and kind of moved on from there. At the same time, I had my partner, my cousin, we had a landscape construction company that years later we morphed into an oil and gas company. So that's kind of how I got into those two fields.
Wow. So pretty much what I'm hearing is you just never want to be bored.
Yeah. glutton for punishment, one of the two. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So when you first got in, what was the market like then? Was it kind of a good time to get in, or was it a
So
tough time?
right around the time I entered, when I was doing apartment leasing and property houses and duplex leasing, that was a good time. It was a college town, so fairly easy. I mean, the good thing is I got a lot of repetition, so I'm really thankful for that time. I probably did 120 or 150 deals, so I dealt with a lot of people, a lot of contracts, a lot of negotiations. Even though it wasn't quite as much negotiation when it comes to rental, there's still some, and so I got a lot of experience. But moving into 2001, getting into land sales, it really picked up in the late 90s around here. There was a major crash in the late 80s that carried through the early 90s, and a complete restructuring of the capital deck here, and the government sold off a lot of assets for the banks owned, and there was an amazing time for people to buy stuff, and a lot of people made generational wealth buying properties and apartments and land and all that during that time. But the early 90s were tough, but starting in the late 90s it picked up. But then the Austin area specifically, there was a tech bust, the bubble in '01, so Applied Materials, some of these other companies had big layoffs, so it was slow there for a minute. But the kind of land I sold was still pretty good, and then it really picked up through the 2000s until the next major recession of '08, which obviously was a big real estate recession, and it slowed there for a while, and then starting about 2014 till the last year or two, it was just crazy. So that's kind of the cycles I've seen. All through there, there's in the oil and gas business, I kind of in the time period after '08, I moved into the oil and gas service company business more. So it was kind of like a hedge to the real estate market.
Wow. So a lot of wisdom in diversification of revenue streams, and then also trying to ride those waves.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm assuming you went in, and after the '08 crisis, you probably bought up more property and
Sure.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I had a good mentor, my father-in-law. He
Yeah.
he had been through the nastiness of the late '80s and early '90s, and he had a big construction company, land development, apartments. He did it all, and it was tough during that time. So by the time I started working with him, he was very conservative, and we had a conservative model for deals. And starting around that '07, '08 time, we started getting priced out. So we couldn't find deals that meet the model. So that's usually a good sign that things are getting a little off.
Yeah.
Because the margins are getting too tight. There's too many people in. There's just a lot of factors you see there. So we had found less deals, so we were at less risk. So really, it wasn't a problem for us. But yeah, as soon as the opportunity came and we had a feel that it was picking back up, we were ahead of the game as far as buying. So that was good.
Brilliant. So with all that in mind, obviously your journey of success was based off of reps and having wise counsel in your life. And what would you say has been the primary contributor to your success? Is it just you know exactly what you're supposed to do? You make the right calls time and time again? Is it based off of, hey, you've made some mistakes, you've made some failures, and you learn from those? Or is it just luck?
Well,
I mean, where do you fit in on that?
A combination of a lot of different things.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody makes mistakes, and I've had some of those.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with partnerships or trusting partners, or there's always some hair involved with partnerships, or there's lots of different opportunities for mistakes. But primarily, I had a really good education. Getting a finance degree really taught me the understanding of risk versus return, and really risk. The more risk you take, the higher return. But if you're in a specialized market, or you understand specialized tools like options, renting, those kind of things, leasing versus owning, as far as equipment goes, there's ways to hedge your risk. So you really look for that sweet spot of managing your risk for the highest return, and then just having a good feel for markets. And when things feel really hot, it's time to really back off. And even in the oil business, we started a saltwater disposal business, and it started with a real estate play. It's kind of a long story, but the short story was, there was a day I went out to the oil field, stood on the hill on a property I was getting a lease. No, actually I was buying it for a site, and there was 12 rigs within eye view. And I was like, this is nuts. They're drilling everywhere. So we were quickly ready to get out. So we started our exit plan. It took about a year. We closed out a deal with a private equity group in New York, sold out, and we kind of recapitalized and sold out at the same time. And a month later, the market crashed.
Oh my
so
gosh.
it's kind of that feel like when you get that feeling like, golly, man, this is even like this last run in 2022, this is not making sense. Home values are up 35% year over year. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's so the end of 21, I really backed off buying, getting that same feeling. So if you pay attention to the signs, it's easier to get ahead of it. If you get greedy, then that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah. So what I hear from you is that there's a lot of just gut checks, right?
Yeah, I think you go with your gut and you keep your finger to the wind and you talk to people.
Yeah.
You talk to people who've been in the business for a while. That helps. You talk to agents that or vendors or whatever business you're in that have been in the business a long time. If they start saying, yeah, this is feeling odd, this is unusual, this is crazy hot, or you see new people jumping in, this is great, I can't wait to get in, and you see a flood of new investment, then the people haven't been around for a long time, then well, this may be time to back off a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about just little lessons learned, obviously when most people think about just real estate in general, they're like, oh yeah, you went and bought some land and you flipped it. Great. But it's a lot more complicated than that. I mean, you have to have a team that backs you up, that does research and that even provides you with leads. And then you got to figure out how to subdivide it, like what you do at Lone Star. Could you walk us through a little bit about what your operation has morphed into over the years and what caused that?
Sure. So yeah, like you said, there's lots of different models. There's house flipping, there's traditional brokerage, there's long-term investing, there's commercial development, there's high density city subdivision, there's high-end subdivision. So, but what I do is mainly rural development. So I'll buy a ranch, sell it in 1 to 20 acre tracts for people who want some freedom of the country. They want to have some space for their neighbors. They don't want to deal with the city. And we keep them nice. We keep them, light restrictions, but at the same time, a lot of freedom. So that's kind of the niche I'm in. Typically 30 minutes to an hour from a major city, 15 minutes or so to a local town like Lockhart or Seguin or Bastrop or Dripping Springs, whatever, so where they can have a grocery store nearby. But they have the freedom of the country and kind of that rural feel of rural community.
Yeah.
And starting out, I did it all myself. So I did the acquisitions, the development, and the sales. So I learned it all. You can only do so much that way, but it gave me a great opportunity to learn. And starting this last really hard push after I got out of the other businesses, not out, but sold out of the disposal well business, in 14, I really started building a team. And the first few deals I did it on my own, but I built a team around me. And in the last 4 years, I implemented EOS, which you've talked about a lot, which is entrepreneurial operating system, a way of managing your team, and built all facets of my team out, have great people, and we love working together. And really building the team out is enabling me to probably 10x my business. And that's really my first 10x in the real estate business was building the functional teams out. So I have an acquisitions team, a sales team, sales manager, marketing team. I have a development and construction team. So yeah, it's really great to have all those roles filled. And I have accounting and finance as well.
Wow. So you obviously have said, hey, this is where we thrive. We're good at it. We're going to keep on growing in that. What would you say some of the challenges you've had in that growth, in that transition from being kind of a solo shop to expanding into having a full team to back you up?
Well, without a good process, there's always opportunity for people underneath you to make serious mistakes. And luckily, all through this time, I've been able to keep a pulse on everything and catch things here or there. But you really have to build the processes, the checklists, the systems of making sure that everything gets done. And during that time, I've really built that out, and that's been very helpful. And then also having great people. But the challenges would be, making sure you have a documented process for most things within the organization, having good communication, and then having great people. And thankfully, thank God, I've had really great people. I mean, that's really been a key to my success is having great people. Everybody within each functional unit does their job probably better than I could, but I can do all of it. But they're more specialized and talented in their area, so that's really leveraging for sure.
I love that. So obviously, great people make or break a business. How did you find them, and were they great to begin with, or did you train them?
You know, I think I've just been blessed to find great people. It's crazy. A lot of it's word of mouth. I really rely on that a lot because it's hard to just hire somebody off the street. So I really try to talk within my network to find great people, and then be flexible a little bit, like not necessarily hiring somebody who's exactly skilled for this, but hiring somebody who's really talented.
Yeah.
And generally talented people, as long as they have the skill set, turn out great in that functional division or functional unit. But it's really hiring talented people, high character, have similar beliefs. That's important to me. Just have our core values. Those things really matter. But high performing as well. Luckily, I've just been blessed through the network to find great people. One of my first, my accountant, who my CPAs, I've had 2 CPAs now, one I hire away. We found her. She had quit her job, was going to retire, got bored 3 days later, started looking on Craigslist, and she took a job for like $15 an hour just doing. At that time, we were selling out our company and we were doing diligence work, so we had to put together our data room and all that. So she helped with that, and I noticed how talented she was at just keeping things organized. So then I moved her into a couple other roles and found out she had done bookkeeping, and yeah, she's an amazing bookkeeper, accountant, and
That's awesome.
it's just, I would call it providence. Like, it's hard to say luck because it's such a great opportunity for both of us.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So you've just leveraged networks to get those right people. What do you do for training? I mean, how do you make sure that those people are doing the best job possible?
Well, personally, being a visionary and strategist, I'm not really good at training. Plus, I have like this. I just don't relate necessarily to the role as well as because I just naturally pick things up, and I just have pushed and grown my own way without like a lot of training. I've had some mentorship, but like as far as skills training, I just learned on my own. So I never really had that corporate like how to train people, but I do have people on my team that are great at it.
Well, that's the key.
That's
knowing
the
your
point.
weakness.
So
right?
they have a system, a process, and it's documented. And then there's also just books and that I recommend, or the EOS system itself is kind of like, it's very well structured. So once they learn that and get integrated into it, it's that helps. But a lot of it is just the system and the process.
Love it. Love it. Well, that background's so helpful for us as we dive into just understanding the market that we're in right now. So you've got your ear to the ground. You have an idea of what's going on. So as of the recording of this podcast in July of 2024, I don't know if the market will have shifted one way or another. But as of today, what would you say the current landscape is for the Texas real estate market and the Texas economy?
Yeah, so it's fascinating to think about Texas. Texas is so unique, and there's a few other states like it, Tennessee, Florida, and some of the southern Sun Belt. But Texas is probably one of the main stars. And actually, in the past several years, I think the past 5 years, we've had 81 corporate headquarter relocations to Austin area.
Wow.
211 to Texas in general. In fact, Austin, the 81 is more than any other state or country in the world.
Wow.
So Texas is hot. And I would say, of course, that's been dampened by the massive increase in rates. So the housing market specifically is slow. Inventories are up from, during the 21-22, it was down to like 15 days in Austin. People were putting 7 or 8 offers on the same property. It was tough, and that's not a good market.
Yeah.
But then it's, once the rates started ticking up, payments on houses increase, people's affordability goes down.
Yeah.
You have to level off. I mean, you can't increase prices when payments are going up because people can't qualify or they can't afford it. But typically, it's what they can qualify. People look for what they can qualify for. So the higher the rate, the higher the payment, based off their income, they can only qualify for X amount, and it's just not available.
Yeah.
And especially starter homes, new homeowners, and there's also the people who are locked in at 3.5%, 4%. They're like, I'm not selling that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get out. There's no way I'm going to 6-7% mortgage when I'm sitting here. So it's limited supply and then hurts demand. So it's an interesting time. But ultimately, it's not a terrible market here. It's just flat.
Yeah.
So there's still opportunity for selling. If you're selling your property at or right at the middle of the market, that's the recommendation. If you're trying to get premium, you're probably going to sit there. So long term, though, I feel like Texas is like Southern California was in the 80s. They went on a almost 50-year run of, they had some booms and busts, but it's been a crazy appreciation. And I think we're probably right in the middle of that. It's been really strong for about 15 years, and I see us going for another 20 or 30.
Wow. So what does that look like for businesses that are growing here, for entrepreneurs? How should they prepare for that?
Well, there's a lot of things involved with that. I think labor's going to get harder to find. So if you're a business owner, you may have to pay more. I mean, but it also matches with inflation. So wages are going to go up.
Yeah.
There's going to be more congestion. Traffic. The state and cities have a hard time staying ahead of growth, and anybody who lives in Austin knows that, or San Antonio, or even Dallas or Houston. Surprisingly, Dallas has picked up their commute times, and actually one of those few cities in the world that's lowered their commute times.
Wow.
So they've done a good job with theirs. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But they've had a long time to get it figured out. But there will be some more congestion, and there's a ton of more opportunity though, because it's popular. Austin's popular, so you have entertainment coming. That there's a lot of companies and employees want to be in Texas. There's because of real estate's still cheap relatively to some of the places they're coming from, like the East and West Coast.
Yep.
And then you also have the lakes, the music scene. So there's a lot of trends that people want to be here on top of in the political environment and taxes. So so the opportunity for entrepreneurs, I guess, would be to find niches that take advantage of population growth, or that kind of popularity in music, restaurants, whatever.
Yeah. No, that's great. When it comes to the impact of the rest of the country's maybe decline in success, how do you feel like the overall U.S. economy is going to impact or dampen or possibly increase the Texas economy?
It's hard to predict the global macroeconomic future, and it's also hard to predict America's future. I mean, there's a lot of I guess just difficulties going on politically, economically. There's some positives in that as far as like when recession comes, if it does, then rates will drop, which would the markets like Texas that have still strong growth and good business, then it'll be able to take advantage of that from even the corporate world, or obviously the real estate market will be ready to really take off again. Yeah. So there's those things, but even the '08 crash, Texas wasn't that bad off. My business wasn't terrible. If you're talking about niche markets like the oil and gas business, it's really its own market. And during COVID, it was crazy. Like planes stopped, cars stopped, oil dropped to zero. Actually went negative, which is wild. So that business, we had to shut everything down. We pivoted to construction. We had to re-strategize and survive, and we were able to pull out of it. But that's more of a niche type business. Generally speaking, though, when you're talking about the overall economy, I think a recession nationally may slow things down here, but it also could lead to opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people are going to want to come here.
People come here, and when rates drop, because to help the national economy, it's going to only put fuel to the fire here.
Yeah. So nothing but upside at this point from you.
Well, I mean, I think you have to be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I would say cautiously optimistic, and you have to take a long view.
Yeah.
You can't predict the next 12, 24 months. I try to, in my business, look 12 months out. I'm pretty good at knowing 12 months. And but generally speaking, to be in this area, to invest in them. So I have deals in all the 4 major cities in Texas, and then Nashville and south in Tennessee, because I feel like those are 2 trending markets. similar dynamics. The East Coast is coming to Tennessee. The West Coast is coming to Texas. The politics are good. Taxes are fair. That kind of stuff. So, but you can't. I could just say that long term we're in a good spot, but predicting really what's going to happen in the next 3 years is hard to say. So I wouldn't say only up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. So what are you doing to be ready for the uncertainty of the next 24 to 36 months?
I manage my capital. I try to manage it wisely. I try not to get over leveraged. So when I get to debt level, I have a lot of indicators, KPIs I keep. So if I get to where my indicators are starting to say, well, you probably should slow down. And the more risk I feel, the more I'll leverage up my numbers to where, or make them more cautious, I guess you would say, cautious outlook. So right now I'm in a holding pattern, but I'm still buying and doing deals because I want to be ready for the next run. And I don't think this recession is going to be bad as '08, even nationwide. I feel like if the Fed threads the needle, and it seems like they've accomplished getting inflation down. So if they can just keep inflation flat for a while, maybe take rates down a little bit over time, not too aggressively, then we may have a soft landing here and just smoothly go through it. And there's a shot for that for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned 12 months out, you've kind of got an idea of what that might look like. Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. So I think 12 months are going to be the same. Okay. We're going to have a mostly slow but normal market. I mean, for me, this is not like crazy slow. There's been many years like this. When you come off of a crazy boom like 21, 22, then it might feel slow, but it's not that bad, honestly.
It's more normal.
It's more normal. Like housing inventories are at 4 months. That's not historically not bad.
Yeah.
Home ownership's around 64%, which historically 65, so we're right there. Home values haven't really come down. They're just flat, which flat's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a healthy economy, no more than 3 to 5%, maybe 7 for home appreciation.
Yeah.
If it gets above that, it's really too hot. If it gets below 0, obviously it's not healthy. But so I would say we're in a mid market right now. If you look at historically, it's not that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a little bit slower than but it's been worse for sure.
Gotcha. So for business owners who are investing, who are trying to make sure that they're making wise choices for their businesses, whether they're in real estate or a service-based business or product, what wise counsel would you give to them as they're trying to just navigate these waters for the next 2 to 3 years? I mean, what would you encourage them based off of your experience?
So I like to go back to the basic finance principles, risk and return. And when you look at growth, you have to factor risk in. So what ways can you grow without taking risk? Can you rent that piece of equipment and do the same work? Mm-hmm. Can you outsource and not hire? Until you feel the pain of if you're outsourcing 40 hours a week or 6 months at a time, then you should hire. But there's little ways to rent instead of owning, outsource instead of hiring. In real estate, there's lots of opportunity for doing option periods, doing a lot more diligence. If it's a slow market, then sellers are more willing to work with you on development type deals. So you can pay option money, you can give them decent money to hold the contract while you do all your diligence, you do your research, you slow down that way. So that's a risk mitigator.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously in big businesses there's hedging. You can buy products or do options or calls or puts or whatever, but that's a whole different deal.
Yeah. No, that's great. So let's just talk about the politics of Texas. You've alluded to the politics of Texas being good, the politics of Tennessee and Florida being good. Why is that the case?
Well, I'll speak specifically Texas. Texas easily. So Texas is a pro-business state. The government really likes to promote business, less regulation. Taxes are lower in general. There's and then so those combinations of things make it business friendly. There's not a high income tax here, like there might be in California. There's less regulations. The state regulatory bodies are more pro-business. The judiciary system is more pro-business. So it's just all top to bottom business friendly. So that creates opportunity for growth. It trickles down. I know that trickle downs could have a bad connotation, but really it does to labor force. Like that's why we have higher wages and low unemployment here. It's because of strong business and the incentive to move people here.
Yeah.
And move companies here. So that creates a lot of opportunity for all business.
So when you're thinking about the future, what do you think is a signal, hey, things are on the up and up now? And whether it's politics, whether it's, more of these huge corporate headquarters moving here, what are going to be some signals we should be looking for that would determine, hey, things are now going to be a lot better?
So it depends on what industry, but because they're so different in some ways.
Sure.
But
let's just talk about real estate.
If we can talk real estate or anything related to population growth, so the signals would be the things I look for. I look for net migration, so like net inflow into the state, population growth. There's immigration does have some positive effects to the economy if there's feels a need in the labor force or whatever, but any population growth does help an economy in a lot of ways. And then there's you can look at the political environment. You can check, like I pay attention to all the bills and all the legislation that might affect my business. So I'm part of trade organizations that keep up with that. So then I can see what hurdles I might have or what freedoms I might get. And there's the last session, our Texas Land Developers Association was able to pass some bills with a good friendly legislator to help our business to cut back some regulations, and which really ultimately helps the consumer, because what we have is in the real estate, sometimes cities will take so long and not do their job well. And what that ends up doing is slowing inventory coming to the market, which then when inventory is already low, it just raises prices for everyone. If we just had more availability of housing, then housing would be more affordable. So the legislator took some actions to help with that. So those are some things that I look for. So I look for, and then I look at the broader economy. Like, do I think rates will come down? Yes, I do. I think they may not come down as fast or as much as people hope, but I think now the inflation's more in check. We're at 3.5. That's healthier. If we get another quarter of that, then I'm sure that and if we start having unemployment go up, those are some things I watch. So unemployment increases, then I think we could see some rate cuts, which would it didn't just help the real estate market, it helps all business, because once the cost of capital goes down, businesses have more opportunity to invest. Their modeling is better when they're lower debt service, and the cost of capital is cheaper.
Love it. Well, so this has been so insightful when it comes to us just having an idea of what to be looking for, because more often than not, business owners are just kind of hunkering down, focusing on, hey, I got to make sure I'm running my business well. And so I appreciate the insights into kind of the environment that we're having to run businesses in. So what advice would you give to maybe younger or aspiring entrepreneurs and investors in light of everything that we've talked to?
So there's the different age brackets or career stages that I kind of would speak to. If you're speaking to the new graduate or somebody in college about to get out, the most important thing is to build a base set of skills. You have to have the ability to talk to people, negotiate, communicate, sell. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to have those.
Yeah,
so, you could do service in your jobs like restaurants. You could get your real estate license, be an apartment locator. You could sell mobile phones in the mall. You could go sell solar door to door. You could sell books door to door. Those kind of tough jobs. Hone your skills. And I wouldn't get a job just to get a job. I would get a job to build skills. So you really want to spend that time building skills. Even early in your career, when you're looking for a job, you want a job that develops you. Like if you're going to be if you want to get into private equity, or if you want to understand the complexities of deal analysis, then you got to find a job that really develops those skills, and not just take any job that that might pay well or have great benefits. I would throw it out the window. I'd take way less money and take the job that builds the skills that really hones my opportunities. So, and if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you do have to have those people skills.
Yeah.
And when I was 17 years old, I didn't even want to be on the phone. I'd rather, because I was raised on a dairy farm, so I'd rather drive to the hardware store and go figure out what I need to figure out than call and ask if they had the right part. It just wasn't my nature. But I broke through that uncomfortableness. The first 2 calls I made weren't fun, but I pushed through it, and now it's not second nature to call anybody up. Even I've dealt with CEOs, I've dealt with major political figures. None of it really stresses me out because of really layering those skills over time.
I love it. And
so then,
the next stage.
Yeah, the next stage would be you've had a job, you're really have the entrepreneurial itch. I say keep the job, work harder at nights and weekends, building that next thing out. Now, part of that is you're going to be the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So you got to surround yourself with great people. Like, your friend network can't be the guys and girls that want to live for the weekend. Like, all they want to do is clock out, go to the bar, have fun. That's a lot of people do it in their 20s, and to me, that's wasting time. Like, you want to be around people that are like-minded, get a mentor, join a group of, mastermind group or whatever, investor group or whatever industry you're in, and get out there and get to meet people that are like-minded. But at the same time, you want to live cheap. If you're married, then have a conversation with your spouse, or if you have a partner or whatever, have a conversation about what are our goals. I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, then we need to set our standard of living very low, because once we take that jump, we can't be used to having 2 car payments, the fancy house. Like, we have to have a baseline that we can retreat to, and have a good runway for that opportunity. But keep your job. But then also you have to build expertise. So in those 20s, in your early career, you have to become an expert at something, and you have to become an expert at whatever you're passionate about. Yeah. And once you become an expert, the opportunity, it shows up, and you are an expert. You have a niche or a set of skills in that area of expertise, so then you'll know what the opportunity is, and then you can start launching that project as you work, not taking away from your employer, but at the same time doubling down. And then you have that business building, and you can take the leap when you have the savings set up and you've planned out how it's going to go in that transition.
Brilliant. Any other stages?
There's lots of the stages, but no, I guess there are more stages. So you have, once you start a business, you have to you have a partner that complements your skills. Yeah. Partnerships can be complicated, so be sure that you have somebody that has like character, like dreams, like vision, and like the same work ethic. Because if they don't have all those things, character, work ethic, and values, then it's not going to work. But if you do have that, you have to have all the skills covered. So either you outsource them, which don't be scared to hire. Hire a marketing company like Clay's. If you're a tech guy, or if you're an engineer, if you don't have sales and marketing, you're not going to make it. If you're sales and marketing, you don't have operations or the technology or the engineering skills, depending on what kind of business, then you're not going to make it. So you have to cover all your bases with either partnership, outsourcing. But a lot of people start a business because they know the product. Yeah. They know how to run a restaurant. They know how to build the best engine, whatever it may be. But they don't know if they don't have the complementary sales and marketing, it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. So absolutely, you got to make sure you cover the bases. And then the third thing would be develop a system like EOS. There's other systems you can use, but you have to have a system of planning and organizing your company and setting meeting rhythms, goals, accountabilities, those kind of things. And so that's kind of the later phases, is developing a system and then determining where you fit in that system.
I love it. Well, this has been gold, absolute gold. So
yeah, it's been a pleasure.
So last question, and then I want to give you a chance to just share a little bit about how people can engage with you if they're looking for land or anything else in between. How do you define success in the context of running a good business?
Sure. So success for me is multifaceted, but honestly, it starts with my employees. Like, if I don't take care of them, or we don't take care of each other, really, because it's not really necessarily my job to take care of them, but we, as a team, we take care of each other. So I like to really understand the needs of my employees, not just at the workplace, but the holistic, what they want to be and who they want to be, and then match, make sure that we care about them and we care about each other. So it starts with employees, and then in your team, and then then the next thing would be do good work, provide a opportunity, service, product that actually makes people happy. So my favorite thing for the land side or real estate side is, somebody seeing a picture of them on the land, barbecuing the first day out. They're so excited, big smiles. That's a win for us, And then the last thing is take the capital the wealth that we create and do good with it. Like, I'm involved in several nonprofits. Like, my faith can be boiled down to love God and love people. So let's love people with that money,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, so if someone's looking for land, or if maybe they're just looking for some advice, how can they reach out to you?
Our website for land is www.tx-land.com, and that's the best place to find our land opportunity. And otherwise, I guess I'm not very publicly available. You can email Clay.
LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. That's great. Well, Zach, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us today and share your wisdom, share your experience with the good business community.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode of Good Business. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button or subscribe, and share this with your friends, family, or anyone that you think would be positively impacted by what Zach had to share today. So we'll see you guys next week on Good Business.